Welcome back. This is session 2 of our series of Proofpoint and Cloud Archiving Technologies. I'm Kohn, Vice President of Archiving for Proofpoint. In this session, we're going to talk about archiving security. If you tune into our first session, we talked about one of the big concerns that organizations have with a cloud or software as a service based archive is the security of all of that data. So today, what we're going to address is how Proofpoint is able to provide the security and privacy protection that is required when moving all this extremely sensitive data to the cloud. And really, when we talk about this, we need to think about 3 key aspects that are the key tenets around cloud security, or really any security. The technology that's being utilized, the people that are backing up the technology, and the processes that surround all of this. So we'll cover these 3 topics over the next few minutes. First of all, from a technology point of view, the key security principle behind Proofpoint's email archiving solution is what we call double-blind encryption, our patented technology that guarantees that data is encrypted at any time when it leaves your organization. So how does this work? Our solution is comprised of 2 main components. A back-end component distributed across our data centers, which stores and reliably searches across all the data for years to come. And there's a small set of appliances that sit on your network, which may be one or several for redundancy, that serve as a gateway really to this back end. So as Exchange is sending and receiving email messages, it sends a copy of those messages to what's called a journal mailbox. This is basically a normal mailbox that is configured to receive a copy of all of these messages. The on-premise appliance then queries that mailbox on a continuous basis, pulls the messages out, and does some processing on those messages to get them ready to be archived. One of the key things it does is encrypts all of that content before sending it to the back end. That encryption is happening with a key that was generated at random the first time the appliance was set up. So this is a key that is unique to the customer, and in fact only our customers have access to the data. At no time does Proofpoint or any third party have access to that key. So the messages are then encrypted and they're sent to the back-end data centers. In the back-end data centers, they're then stored across redundant data centers to ensure that even if there is a disaster in any data center, all the data is still accessible. Now, when the appliance then gets confirmation that data has been correctly archived in the back-end data center and that it's the same version, the exact same content, so there's validity and chain of custody for the data, it then deletes it from the Exchange store. This typically happens within a few minutes or at most an hour. And so the benefit you get here is if there's any failure across any of this process, an appliance dies, your network goes down, there's an interruption in the internet, one of our data centers goes down, data is not lost in any of this process, and this is key. Now we're storing all this data in our back-end data centers that are stored encrypted. Now when a user wants to do a search across this data, again, whether it may be an end user searching their own email archive for data from 2 years ago, or somebody legal doing a big e-discovery request across the terabytes worth of data, those search terms and all that criteria that the user wants to search on is also encrypted and sent to the back end in encrypted format. So essentially what you're doing is you're searching across encrypted content with encrypted keywords. Now this is really where all of our patented technology comes into place, but we're able to consolidate all the results, send it back down to the appliance. The appliance then decrypts the search results and presents them to the user. So the user is now able to view the results as if it was completely decrypted all the way through. All this encryption is transparent to the end user. And if an end user requests to view the details of any given message, again, that is pulled down and decrypted at the appliance. So this guarantees that all transactions going to the back-end data center, all the content that is stored, as well as all the data that is being, all the search terms that are being sent back are all encrypted. So we have no idea at Proofpoint what any of your data is, have no way of accessing it, or what any of your search terms are. And, as we talked about in session 1, this reduces a number of risk areas. It reduces the risk of a hacker hacking into a data center and gaining access to data. It decreases the risk around somebody internal to Proofpoint potentially accessing the data and breaching it, or even a software bug that may cause some of this data to be exposed. None of that is a risk because, again, all the data is encrypted with a key that only our customers have, really guaranteeing the security of the data. So this technology is great, and we talk about some of the internal risks that may happen. So of course, as a service provider, we want to ensure that we have the greatest level of security independent of this technology. And that's really where people and process come into play. And we're able to provide a great level of security beyond that of what most organizations are able to do in-house because of a number of key tenets. And all of them really have to do with the scale at which we operate. So I'll cover some of these at a high level. First of all, tremendous operational expertise in what we do. Our staff who manages our archiving operations are focused on managing one application and one application only, which is this archiving operation. They are experts at it, as opposed to typically within enterprise IT where you have generalists who do a little bit of everything. Not only are they experts in managing just the appliance, but at the scale at which we operate, we have many people in our operations team, and they each have their own specialization in what they do, and that's very compartmentalized. So we gain great levels of expertise and focus in specific areas. Being at scale as part of this, we also need to be continuously auditing everything we do to make sure we're doing the right thing to provide the right levels of service. This provides, obviously, a great security benefit as well. We have a very controlled environment. One set of hardware platforms, one operating system, and one code base that is developed internally. High degree of automation, high degree of repeatability. The only way we can manage thousands and thousands of servers is by having it all be automated. So we, for example, can monitor at any moment in time that all the exact right code components are running on every server. So if there was a rogue piece of code operating somewhere, some Trojan or something else, we would automatically detect it and be able to shut that down. This is really part of a real-time inventory review across everything. But again, by having this homogeneous environments, if there is a patch that needs to be applied, if there is a security hole that needs to be patched, we're really rapidly able to do so because we have tremendous expertise across the entire environment. Our data encryption architecture, as I talked about, is also a key part of this. So this kind of leads back to the encryption and technology we just talked about. We want to encrypt all data in motion at rest using a database or double-blind encryption, and we separate the key from the actual data, the key being at the customer site, the data being in our data centers. By separating these two, you really need to be able to have access to both of those components and all the software that makes them work together to gain access to the data. So the key management practices are really about our customers managing their key and us not having to worry about it. And lastly, by having a redundant architecture, not only do we provide a great level of reliability, something a lot of organizations can't do on premises, but this also allows us to have a greater level of security because we've built this multi-data center architecture from the ground up. We haven't bolted on third-party software solutions to do replication and to manage DR scenarios that are yet another point of vulnerability. Again, it's all closely tied together. Now all of these controls that we've put in place are audited every year, and we have a SAS 70 Type 2 certification that verifies that we in fact do everything we set out to do. Now, as opposed to most other SaaS providers, and certainly most providers in the SaaS archiving space, who talk about having SAS 70 Type 2 data centers, and those data centers are secure, Proofpoint goes one step above that, and our actual operational processes are documented and audited, and we can present that to our customers. So you have the greatest level of security, knowing that not only do we have the right level of technology, and great security from a physical level at our data centers, but all of our operational controls are closely scrutinized to the highest level and certified that we're living up to the right levels of security. So quickly, who is Proofpoint? Proofpoint is a leading provider of email security, compliance, and archiving solutions to the mid to large enterprise. Many of the largest organizations in the world with the highest degrees of security sensitivity rely on Proofpoint to provide them these solutions. Whether it's inbound email protection, anti-spam, antivirus, anti-malware, and phishing, outbound security, looking at outbound content and looking at it for private or confidential information, and applying the right policies. Stop it, quarantine, apply workflow, or encrypt that content using Proofpoint encryption technology. And of course, Proofpoint archiving and e-discovery solutions that we've talked about today. All of these solutions are provided in an extremely secure way and can be deployed in a number of ways on-premise or in the cloud or as hybrid deployments across all of these. Thank you for attending, and I hope you enjoy the session.
Awesome.